The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife that evening in Los Angeles, where the city's glittering lights appeared to mock the raw emotions unfolding inside Taylor Hayes' home. Deacon Sharp stood in the living room, his broad shoulders set, but his customary confident swagger was gone. He had come here following another angry encounter with Steffi Forrester, his lover's daughter, who had issued an ultimatum with no space for negotiation. Steffi, as fiery and protective as ever, had made it obvious that if Taylor wanted any chance of repairing the damaged family bonds, especially with her grandchildren and the legacy she had built alongside Ridge Forrester, she needed to stop things with Deacon. There would be no more stolen moments, secret rendezvous, or DEACON, as their strange pairing was called by admirers online. The option was clear: family, or the man who had miraculously opened her heart after years of guarded solitude. Taylor strolled carefully toward the fireplace, her dark hair reflecting the warm glow of the flames. She had always been the calm one, the psychiatrist who could cure broken minds and spirits, but tonight her hands trembled slightly as she clasped them together. Deacon studied her, his gaze following the lines of concern etched deeper into her features. He knew this moment was coming, ever since Steffi rushed in days before, demanding explanations and issuing threats veiled in parental love. He had attempted to fight it at first, claiming that what they shared was true, that he had changed, and that he deserved a chance at happiness after everything he had been through. But Steffi's comments had struck home. Taylor's family was her rock, while Deacon, with his tangled relationship with Sheila Carter and the scars he bore from his past, symbolized chaos. Deacon cleared his throat, breaking the long silence. "Taylor," he murmured, his voice low and steady, with a sense of finality that made her stop pacing. "We both know why I'm here. Steffi's not backing down, and I won't be the reason you lose them. Your kids, your grandkids, they're everything to you. I get it." She turned to face him completely, her eyes searching his. There was so much she wanted to say, so many points she had worked out in her head during sleepless evenings. That he had shown a side of herself that she had thought was long hidden, passionate, vulnerable, and alive in ways Ridge's betrayals had dulled. Despite the difficulties, their connection felt like fate, or at least the closest thing to it she'd experienced in years. But the words stuck in her throat as she noticed the determination in his expression. He moved closer, but not too close. "Even now, maintain a respectful distance. I'm not going to drag this out," he said, his tone harsher than she'd ever heard it. The warmth that had previously eased his harsh edges was vanished, replaced with a calculated indifference. "This goodbye, it's gotta be clean. No promises, no maybe someday. You need your family whole again. I need to figure out my own mess without pulling you into it deeper." Taylor sighed as she breathed. "Deacon, please. We can find another way. Steffi will come around in time." "No," he cut in forcefully, the word falling like a slap. "She won't. And even if she did, what then? You'd always be looking over your shoulder, wondering if the next argument would tear it all apart again. I love you too much to do that to you." His voice cracked slightly on the last word, revealing the effort it took to keep his cool. But he straightened and pushed the mask back into place. "So this is it. I'm walking out that door, and we're done." His cool tone hurt more than any violent scream could have. It wasn't wrath, it was resignation coated in ice, a purposeful severance to make the pain harsher and faster. Taylor felt tears well in her eyes, but she blinked them away. She had endured worse: cancer scares, lost lovers, and the never-ending battle with Brooke Logan over Ridge. But something felt odd. This was a choice thrust on them, and Deacon chose to protect her by letting go. He turned toward the door and reached for the knob. Every step felt heavier, as if the floor was resisting his departure. Memories flooded his mind. Their first tentative kiss after months of therapy sessions that had blurred into something more. The nights they had spent talking until dawn about redemption and second chances, and the way she laughed at his dry humor, a sound that made him feel human again after years of feeling like a monster. Taylor's voice halted him just as his fingers reached the metal. "Wait." It was just a whisper, yet it held the weight of everything unsaid. He paused, not turning around yet, frightened that looking at her might prevent him from leaving. She drew a nervous breath and immediately placed her hand on her stomach. The secret she had kept for weeks was now burning inside her, a tiny spark of life that transformed everything. She had confirmed it with a test, followed by a doctor's appointment, and was staring at the ultrasound image in astonishment. At her age, it was both miraculous and complicated. And what about the father? Well, there was no question. Their passion was brief, but strong, a farewell to caution in the face of forbidden yearning. "Deacon," she said, stronger this time. He finally turned, his brow furrowing in surprise at the change in her tone. She moved forward, narrowing the gap he had attempted to maintain. "I can't let you go without telling you the truth. There's something you need to know before you walk out that door." He scanned her expression, understanding the weight. "What is it? If it's about Steffi, It's not about Steffi." She swallowed hard, her gaze fixed on his. "I'm pregnant." The words echoed between them like thunderclaps. Deacon's expression froze, and the cold facade cracked in an instant. His eyes expanded, astonishment clashing with something deeper, shock, dread, and a glimmer of hope he couldn't admit. "Pregnant," he repeated, as if testing the word to see if it was authentic. Taylor nodded, tears flowing out. "Yes. It's yours. I found out a couple of weeks ago. I was going to tell you sooner, but then Steffi, everything happened so fast. I didn't want to trap you, or make this harder. But I can't let you say goodbye thinking this is just over. There's a child now. Our child." Deacon's hand fell off the doorknob. He took a step back, not away from her, but as if the news required some space to settle. His thoughts raced. A child. After everything, his blunders with Hope's conception, the agony he had caused so many people, and the forgiveness he had fought for, he had never envisioned parenthood again. Not like this. Not with Taylor Hayes, the woman who saw the worst in him, yet decided to trust in the best. He ran his fingers through his hair and exhaled sharply. How far along?" "About 8 weeks," she answered hesitantly. "The doctor said everything looks healthy so far, but it's high risk because of my age. I haven't told anyone else, not Steffi, not Ridge, no one." Deacon's gaze shifted to her abdomen, then back to her face. The coolness that had previously protected him had melted away, leaving him vulnerable. "Taylor, this changes everything." "I know," she said quietly. "That's why I had to tell you. I couldn't let you leave without knowing." He bridged the gap in 2 strides, his hands tenderly cupping her face. For the first time since he arrived, his touch felt warm and tentative. "I was ready to let you go to save you from losing your family. But a baby, our baby." His tone was raspy. "I can't just disappear now. Not if there's a chance to do this right." Taylor leaned into his palms and closed her eyes. "Steffi will be furious. The family, they'll see this as another betrayal." "Let them," he answered passionately, though his tone softened. "We'll face it together. I've lost too much in my life to walk away from this. From you. From our kid." He paused, a faint, disbelieving smile pulling at his lips despite the storm ahead. "A kid. Me. A dad again. Who would have thought?" She laughed through her tears, which relieved the pain in his chest. "I was afraid to tell you, because I thought it would push you further away." "Nothing could push me away now," he muttered, drawing her into his arms. She put her head on his shoulder, feeling his heartbeat. For a brief period, the world outside drifted away, the Forrester drama, Sheila's shadow, and the never-ending rivalry. There was only this. 2 people who had met despite all odds, now connected by something much greater. But reality crept back in gradually. Deacon pulled back just enough to gaze at her. "We need a plan. Tell Steffi first, before she hears it from someone else. She deserves that much." Taylor replied with a wink. "And Ridge. Brooke, it's going to explode." He chuckled grimly. "Yeah, understatement of the year. But we've handled explosions before." His hand slipped to her stomach, resting gently and reverently. "This little one, they're going to need us strong. Both of us." She took his hand in hers. "I don't want to do this alone." "You won't," he vowed. "I'm not going anywhere." They stood there for a long time, wrapped around one another as the fire crackled softly. The goodbye that Deacon had come to convey had changed into something totally different, a new beginning built in fire and insight. Outside, the city lights twinkled, oblivious to the seismic shift inside that house. Inside, a family was about to grow in an unexpected way, and the fights that lay ahead would put them all to the test. But there was hope in the silent aftermath of confession, and a frigid departure turned tender embrace. Fragile, difficult, and real. And it, in the realm of Los Angeles's elite and complicated lives, was sometimes the most powerful thing of all. The air in the modest diner felt exceptionally heavy that evening, as if the walls knew something significant was going to happen. Deacon stood at the doorway, his hands buried in his jacket pockets, peering at the deserted street beyond. The neon sign flashed quietly, sending fleeting shadows over the calm chamber. He remained still for quite some time. When the door opened behind him, he didn't have to turn around to see who it was. Taylor carefully went inside, closing the door with a soft click. Her gaze fell on him, examining his stance and noting the strain in his shoulders. She'd known him long enough to notice when something had changed. The silence between them was long and uncomfortable. "You said you wanted to talk," she said gently. Deacon finally turned around, but his look was colder than she anticipated. Not angry, not emotional, simply far. "Yeah," he responded bluntly. "I did." Taylor moved deeper into the room, perplexed by the tone in his voice. Deacon usually responded to stressful situations with sarcasm or evasion, but not tonight. Tonight, he seems to have made up his mind about something. "What is going on?" she asked. "You sounded serious." He nodded once, as if to confirm that seriousness was precisely the idea. "I'm leaving," he announced. The words landed abruptly, and almost clinically. No build-up, no hesitancy. Just a statement. Taylor blinked, attempting to process it. "Where are you leaving?" "Out of town. Maybe outside of the country. I haven't made a decision yet." Her brow wrinkled. "You're joking." "I'm not." The room appeared to shrink around them as she took in the words. For weeks, their lives had become entangled in convoluted relationships, emotional clashes, and the continual upheaval that enveloped everyone they knew. But leaving completely? That seemed extreme. "Why?" she asked. Deacon leaned on a nearby table, his gaze briefly shifting to the floor. "Because sometimes the best thing you can do is remove yourself from a situation before it gets worse." She raised her arms. "That sounds like an excuse." "Maybe it is." The casual admission made her even more nervous. "You don't just walk away from your life," she insisted. "Not like this." "Watch me." His voice was calm, almost distant, making the situation even more frightening. Taylor examined him closely. This was not the impulsive man she knew. This was someone who has reached a decision after a lengthy, internal debate. "What happened?" she pressed. "Did anyone threaten you? Did anything happen to Sheila?" With Brooke, Deacon shook his head slowly. "It's not about them." "So what?" For a brief while, he did not respond. His eyes returned to the window, where he observed an automobile driving down the street. "It's about consequences," he finally explained. "Every decision we make eventually catches up with us." Taylor groaned, frustrated. "That still doesn't explain why you're disappearing." "Because staying here causes more harm. For everyone." She moved closer. "You don't get to decide that for other people. But I can make my own decision." A deeper stillness fell between them. Taylor's thoughts raced with possibilities. Something had obviously driven him to this point. "Does Hope know?" she asked gently. His jaw tightened slightly. "Not yet. She deserves to hear it from you." "I will tell her." "But what about the rest of us?" "You're saying goodbye, as if it's nothing." Deacon met her gaze again, and for the first time, there was a flash of feeling beneath the surface. "It's not nothing," he replied. Taylor shook her head slowly. "But it's necessary." "You're making a mistake." "Maybe. You always say that like it doesn't matter." "Sometimes mistakes are the only way forward." She gave him serious attention. The way he talked seemed almost decisive, as if he had already mentally packed his things and closed the door behind him. "You're really serious," she muttered. "Yes." And nothing I say will sway your opinion? He did not respond immediately. For a brief moment, it appeared that he would soften. But suddenly the moment ended.
No.
The coldness of that single word shot shivers through her. Taylor turned away and paced slowly across the room. She'd come here expecting a difficult conversation, but not this. This is not a farewell offered with such emotional remoteness. You're acting like you don't care about anyone here, she told me. That's not true. So, why does it seem like it is? Deacon breathed slowly. Because caring too much is exactly the problem. She paused her pacing. What does that mean? It means that the more you stay connected to people, the more damage you can do when things go wrong. Taylor stared at him again, attempting to decipher the deeper meaning behind his words. Deacon had always felt guilty about his history, but this sense of detachment seemed different. You're afraid, she understood. He lifted his eyebrows slightly. Of what? Of hurting people again. His silence was sufficient response. Taylor softened little. Running away won't fix that. It might prevent the next disaster. She groaned profoundly. You know that's not how life works. Maybe not, he replied. But it's the choice I'm making. Taylor's heart beat as she watched him. For a time, she pondered letting him go. Perhaps he truly believed that was the best option. But something else was weighing on her tonight. Something she had not planned to say. Something that suddenly seemed difficult to keep hidden any longer.
Deacon, she said gently.
He gazed at her. There's something you should know before you walk away. His expression remained reserved. What is it? She paused. For days, she had mentally rehearsed the talk, anticipating various replies and consequences. None of those rehearsals featured the time when he was about to vanish from their life. However, the truth could not wait any longer. I wasn't sure how to tell you, she replied softly. A tiny crease appeared on his forehead. Tell me what? Taylor swallowed, bracing herself. I'm pregnant. The words echoed in the air like a shockwave. Deacon did not react immediately. For 5 seconds, he just stared at her, as if the statement hadn't entirely registered. Then he blinked. What? I'm pregnant. The frigid control he had maintained all evening broke abruptly. His stance straightened, and his eyes widened in surprise. That's not possible. It is. She shot him a glare. You know how. I mean, when did you find out? A few days ago. Are you sure? Yes, he said, running his hand through his hair and walking across the room. This can't be happening, he said. Taylor paid close attention to him. The man who had before been calmly plotting his leave now appeared absolutely shaken. You are about to leave without knowing, she explained softly.
He stopped pacing.
Is it mine? She exhaled. Do you really need to ask that? I just need to hear it. Yes, she responded. It's yours. The confirmation hit him harder than he anticipated. Deacon had spent years dealing with the ramifications of parenting, attempting to mend the damaged connections he had caused by his actions. The prospect of beginning that road again was overwhelming. You're serious, he replied gently. Yes. And you only just found out? I wanted to be sure before telling anyone. And now you're telling me because I'm leaving. I'm telling you because you deserve to know. He turned away again, peering at the faint lights of the restaurant. Unbelievable, he muttered. Taylor approached slowly. I didn't plan this. Neither did I. That's obvious. Deacon inhaled deeply, his thoughts rushing through 100 options. Everything he had just agreed to leave now seemed complex. You realize what this means, he added. Yes. It means I can't just disappear. She didn't respond. He gazed back at her, his frustration growing. You knew this would change everything. I knew you had a right to know. So you waited until now? I had no idea you were going to walk out of town. He rubbed his temples, apparently overwhelmed. Taylor's voice softened as she said, This is exactly the kind of chaos I was trying to avoid. A child isn't chaos. Sometimes it is. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. She looked at him closely. Are you really going to see this as another problem to avoid? His gaze met hers again. I don't know what I'm going to do, he said. That's the first honest thing you've said tonight. The room fell silent again, but this time felt different. The certainty that had enveloped his planned departure was suddenly shattered by uncertainty. Deacon took a careful glance around the restaurant, as if it were his first time there. "You're really pregnant," he said, almost to himself. "Yes. And you're keeping the baby." "Of course." He nodded slowly, taking in the fact. For the first time since Taylor came, the frigid distance in his voice faded. In its place was something far more complicated: anxiety, responsibility, and a sliver of hesitant hope. "So," Taylor asked slowly, "are you still saying goodbye?" Deacon did not respond right away. Instead, he glanced at the door he had been about to walk through minutes ago. Then he turned back to her. "I guess," he continued slowly, "things have just gotten a lot more complicated."